The house looked the same as always. White shutters, a wraparound porch, a lawn that my grandfather had cared for with his own hands until the arthritis made him stop. But tonight it felt different, charged. Like a storm hovering just above us, ready to snap. I parked at the curb and just sat there for a moment, staring at the lights inside, listening to the sound of laughter spilling out the windows. My family, laughing, drinking, pretending like nothing had changed. Pretending like they weren't furious with me. When I finally stepped through the door, all eyes flicked toward me at once. My mother forced a smile, tight and sharp. My father stayed planted in his chair. His whiskey glass balanced perfectly between his fingers. And then there was my sister, Angela. Her eyes were already narrowed. Her lips curled into that smirk she'd been perfecting since we were kids. "Well," she said, raising her glass as if in a toast, "look who finally decided to show up. The golden granddaughter herself." A ripple of forced laughter went through the room. I didn't answer. I just slipped out of my coat, hung it on the rack, and walked to the dining table where my younger brother, Ethan, sat hunched over a plate of half-eaten food. He gave me a quick, almost guilty smile, then looked down again. No one wanted to say it outright, but I knew why they'd all come tonight. Not for the reunion. Not for family. They came for me. Or more specifically, for what I had. When my grandfather passed away last month, his will had been clear, almost brutally so. Every dollar of his estate, every acre of land, every last belonging. He left it all to me. Not my father, not my mother, not Angela. Just me. I hadn't asked for it. I hadn't even expected it. But my grandfather and I had always had a bond that no one else in this family bothered to nurture. When everyone else was too busy chasing money, chasing reputation, chasing themselves, he sat with me. He told me stories. He taught me how to build things with my hands, how to balance a checkbook, how to read between the lines. He trusted me. And now, because of that, they hated me. Dinner started quietly enough, though the tension was thicker than the gravy on the table. Angela kept making digs, subtle at first. About my clothes. About the car I drove. About how amazing it must feel to inherit money you didn't earn. I let it roll off me. I'd learned long ago that silence unsettled her more than any comeback ever could. But then halfway through dessert she snapped. "You know this isn't fair," Angela said, her voice sharp enough to cut through the clinking of forks. "You know he only left it to you because you manipulated him. Because you spent more time with him than the rest of us. You think you're special, but you're not. You're just greedy." My father didn't correct her. My mother didn't scold her. They just sat there, letting her spew poison. I set my fork down slowly and looked across the table at her. Grandpa made his choice. It's not about fairness. It's about trust. Her face twisted. Trust. He was old and confused. And you took advantage of that. That's when she reached under the table. At first I thought she was just shifting in her chair. But then I saw it, the dull black glint of a handgun. She laid it right there on the tablecloth, between the apple pie and the half-empty wine glasses. The room froze. Ethan gasped. My mother finally found her voice, whispering, "Angela." But Angela didn't look at her. She only looked at me. "You're going to sign the papers," she said. "Tomorrow. You're going to give it all back. Or," she tapped the gun with one perfectly manicured nail, "I'll make sure you regret it." My heart should have been pounding. My hands should have been shaking. But instead I smiled. Small, quiet smile. Because everything was already in motion. And Angela had no idea what she'd just walked into. Angela's hand hovered over the gun like it was an extension of herself, her polished nails gleaming in the chandelier light. My mother pressed a trembling hand to her mouth. My father took another slow sip of whiskey, as if the sight of his eldest daughter threatening his youngest didn't warrant interruption. I leaned back in my chair, folded my arms, and tilted my head. "You really think this is the way?" I asked her calmly. Angela's eyes flicked with irritation. She wanted me rattled, begging, crying. She wanted the upper hand. But instead I was steady, steady enough to unsettle her. You think Grandpa didn't see this in you? I went on. The greed, the anger, the willingness to destroy anyone who gets in your way. That's why he didn't trust you. That's why it's mine, not yours. Her nostrils flared. Shut up. You think this gun makes you powerful, but all it makes you is predictable. Her jaw twitched, and in that split second I knew. I had her exactly where I wanted her. Ethan shifted uncomfortably beside me. He was pale, his fork clinking against the plate in his shaking hand. He whispered my name, begging me with his eyes to de-escalate. But I wasn't going to. Not tonight. Angela thought she was playing chess. What she didn't know was that I'd already taken her king weeks ago. Because the moment I'd inherited everything, I knew this day was coming. I knew my family wouldn't just accept it. They'd circle like vultures, wait for weakness, then strike. Angela especially. She'd been my rival since childhood, fueled by jealousy and entitlement. So I prepared. Hired a lawyer. I secured the deeds. I moved the money. And most importantly, I installed cameras. Not the cheap kind you get at a hardware store, but professional-grade surveillance tucked into the crown molding. Hidden behind picture frames embedded in the smoke detectors. And tonight, every word, every threat, every reckless move. It was all being recorded. Angela, I said softly, look around. Is this really how you want to be remembered? As the sister who pulled a gun at Thanksgiving dinner. The one who threatened her own blood over money. Her hand trembled, but her pride wouldn't let her back down. You don't get it, do you? This isn't just about money. It's about respect. You were always the favorite. Always the one he doted on. And now even in death, he gives you everything while the rest of us get scraps. Well, not this time. You're going to pay. I smiled again, wider this time. Funny. That's exactly what the jury will say. Confusion flickered in her eyes. For the first time all night, doubt cracked through her armor. What jury? She snapped. I leaned forward, lowering my voice so only she could hear. The one that's going to watch this entire night played back in crystal clear HD. Her head whipped around, scanning the room. But the cameras were too well hidden. My father slammed his glass on the table, finally speaking up. Enough of this. Both of you. We're family, for God's sake. But his words were hollow. Because he hadn't stopped her. He hadn't even tried. He'd sat there watching, waiting to see if her gamble paid off. And in doing nothing, he'd shown his hand too. Angela's face flushed red, rage coursing through her veins. She grabbed the gun and pointed it at me fully now, her finger brushing the trigger. Ethan cried out. My mother screamed. And then, blick. Hollow sound. No bang. No bullet. Just a dry, empty click. Angela's face went pale. She pulled the trigger again. Blick. Again. Blick. That was when I let the final truth slip. Did you really think I wouldn't check the gun cabinet before coming here tonight? Her eyes widened. I'd known. I'd found the missing pistol days ago. And I'd emptied it. Placed it right back where I knew she'd find it, thinking she was clever. The room was spinning now with panic. My mother sobbing, Ethan gripping my arm, my father cursing under his breath. But me. I was calm. Because the trap was fully sprung. And the best part. She didn't even realize the police were already on their way. Angela's face drained of color. Her hand still clutching the useless pistol. Her chest heaved, fury and disbelief tangled together. You set me up, she whispered. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The flashing red and blue lights that cut through the dining room curtains spoke for me. A moment later, there was a pounding at the door. My mother jumped to her feet, wringing her hands. My father barked. Stay calm, don't let them in yet. But it was too late. Ethan had already rushed to the door and pulled it open. Two officers stepped inside, their presence heavy and commanding. They didn't need to ask what was happening. Angela was standing there, wild-eyed, a gun in her hand, and a table full of witnesses frozen in terror. "Ma'am, drop the weapon," one of the officers ordered. Angela's knees buckled. She looked at me, eyes blazing with betrayal. "You called them." I folded my hands neatly on the table, keeping my voice steady. "No, Angela. You called them when you pulled that gun out in front of half the family. I just made sure they were close enough to hear it." Her lips parted, but no words came. She looked down at the pistol one last time, then let it clatter onto the floor. The officers moved in quickly, cuffing her as she sputtered weak protests. "This isn't what it looks like. It was a mistake. She provoked me. This isn't fair." But her excuses bounced off the cold walls, because fair had nothing to do with it. As they led her toward the door, she whipped her head back at me. "You'll regret this. I'll come back. You think you've won, but you haven't." I didn't flinch. I didn't even blink. "Goodbye, Angela." The door slammed shut behind her, leaving only the echo of my mother's sobs and the silence of everything that had just unraveled. For a long moment no one moved. My father poured himself another drink with shaking hands. My mother slumped into a chair, her shoulders trembling. And Ethan just looked at me, his eyes wide with a mixture of fear and awe. "You knew," he said quietly. "You knew this was going to happen." I gave him the smallest nod. She couldn't help herself. Grandpa knew it too. That's why he left everything to me. Because he trusted I'd protect it. Protect us. Ethan swallowed hard. But, was it worth it? Setting her up like that? I turned to him, my expression softening. He was the only one I still cared about in this house. The only one who hadn't tried to cut me down to size. "Sometimes," I said, "the only way to win against people who thrive on destruction is to let them destroy themselves." His brow furrowed, but he didn't argue. He just nodded slowly, as though some part of him understood, even if he didn't want to. Later that night, after everyone had gone to bed, I walked through the quiet house. The cameras were still humming softly, little red lights blinking in the corners. Every moment of the evening was saved. Evidence, protection, and a reminder. I paused at my grandfather's old study, running my hand along the oak doorframe. He had always believed in me, always said I was stronger than I thought. And tonight I proved him right. This house, this land, this legacy, it wasn't just mine now. It was my responsibility. To honor him. To protect it from the ones who only saw it as leverage, as power, as money. Angela had tried to take everything from me. But in the end, she gave me something far more valuable, clarity. I knew exactly who my enemies were. And I knew exactly how to deal with them. I switched off the hall light, letting the house sink into darkness. The storm had passed. For now. But I also knew my family. And storms have a way of circling back. And when it did, I'd be ready.